Before my first breath, I was held inside your light. I came out of your heart. I was born from your life. No distance in between us, no shadow, no divide. You are the breath within me. You are the truth inside. I am one with God, one spirit, one breath, one life. With God, in your presence I abide. I am one with God. No fear can break this tie. I am one with God, forever unified. Tried to blind me, told me I was far, but you were living in me, closer than my heart. Now every moment whispers the truth I thought I lost. I came from holy presence, I returned to where I crossed. I am one with God, one spirit, one breath, one life. With God, in your presence I abide. I am one with God, no fear can break this tie. I am one with God, forever unified. Breathing in, I feel you. Breathing out, you move through. Every breath reminds me I'm one with you. Breathing in, I know you. Breathing in, out. Breathing out, I show you. Oh, yeah. Every breath declares that I'm one with you. I am one with God, one spirit, one breath, one life. With God, in your presence I abide. I am one with God, nothing can divide. I am one with God, forever unified.
Hello, family. Greetings to everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. I want to start today's session by saying this. Genesis was never written to be rushed. It was written to be recognized. Genesis 1, 2, and 3 are not telling us what happened to people back then. They are describing what happens to every human being. This is not history. It's the human journey. Let's begin by removing a distortion that has shaped fear for centuries. Genesis is not about God forming humans out of dirt or clay with his hands and blowing air into our lungs. God is spirit. Spirit does not get its hands dirty. Genesis is written in symbolic language because it is speaking about life, awareness, and experience. When symbols are read literally, truth is reduced. But when symbols are understood, truth awakens. Genesis 1 is not physical creation. It is life being ordered to be expressed. Before there is a body, there is being. Before there is experience, there is identity. When scripture says, "Let there be light," it is not talking about the sun. Light in scripture always means awareness, clarity, understanding. Genesis 1 and 2 are doing two things simultaneously. One is revealing your divine origin, and the next is showing how remembrance restores awareness. That is when you awaken to your true self, what Jesus calls born again. Genesis 1 tells you who you are before experience. Life proceeds from the source. Identity is declared, not earned. Image and likeness are given before form. Nothing is lacking, broken, or fallen. This is being before doing. This is why Jesus never taught people to become sons of God. He taught them to see what they already were. Genesis 1 is original knowing. Genesis 1 is the Father, source, ordering his own life to be expressed. The Father ordering your emotions, your instincts, everything you need to have a lived human experience. This is why humanity is declared in the image and likeness of God before any form appears. This is your divinity, not something you earn, not something you become, but something that is declared before experience. And notice this: no enemy, no failure, no separation, no judgment. Only one conclusion. And God saw that it was very good. Genesis 1 tells you who you are before the world tells you who you are. Then something shifts in Genesis 2. Genesis 2 shows how divine life takes on form, reflects through soul, enters experience, becomes identity without awareness. This is ego without remembrance, not ego as evil, no. Ego without remembrance. Awareness hasn't turned inward yet. Identity exists, but doesn't yet know itself. You exist, but you don't yet know yourself. The soul is the interface, the mirror, the place where life experiences itself. The soul is where identity enters experience, where consciousness becomes embodied. Formed in Genesis 2:7 means shaped consciousness. Dust of the ground means material realm, embodied condition. Living soul means life reflected through form. This is not God molding clay or getting his hands dirty. No, God is a spirit. This is life clothing itself with the soul. This is incarnation. This is where scripture says, man became a living soul. Scripture is careful with words. It didn't say man became a living body, because it was not a body that was being shaped. No. It said man became a living soul. Life did not enter a body. Life became conscious through a soul. Body has not come yet. Body came in Genesis 3:21. Remember, God is a spirit. Whatever was in God's presence was consciousness, not a physical body. Let's look at garments of skin. What Genesis 3:21 is talking about. Garments of skin is embodiment. Garment represents interface. Skin represents physical embodiment. Life fully enters human experience. In other words, life came out of the Father, emerged into a soul, and clothed itself with a body to have a lived human experience. And that is you, beloved. That is me. That is humanity in general. We were not molded from clay. No. All those are symbolic languages. We were spoken into existence, took on a soul, and clothed ourselves with a body to have a lived human experience. Humanity means the life of God in a vessel. Hue, life of God. Man, vessel. Together, life of God in a vessel. We were not molded from clay. Let me repeat. We were spoken into existence, and life took on a body to have a lived human experience. We looked down on ourselves because symbolisms were read literally, and for centuries we lived beneath ourselves, our identity, our divinity. This is what Paul calls falling short of the glory of God. That is living beneath our identity. When scripture is read symbolically, it aligns with reality. Let's look at this. The sperm, which is symbolic for life or spirit, plus egg, symbolic for soul, unite, align. Zygote forms, which is a living soul. Implantation occurs in the uterine wall. Pregnancy begins. That's the soul realm. Development unfolds all by itself. Life embodying itself with the skin. No molded clay body appearing. No. No divine hands shaping flesh. Life begins invisibly. Form develops progressively. Life clothes itself with skin. That's exactly what Genesis is telling us. We were not molded. We were not molded. Life came out of the Father, emerged into a soul, and took on a body to have a lived human experience. Exactly what we see in the womb. Genesis was never contradicting biology. It was describing it symbolically. Let us make man in our image is awareness restored. Identity already exists. Form already exists. What is being introduced now is awareness. To be made in God's image means to become reflective, to know one's source, to relate consciously. Relationship requires awareness. God does not dominate humanity. God relates to humanity once awareness is present. This is why innocence is described naked, unashamed, unafraid. There is no egoic self-consciousness yet. This is what Jesus means by being born again, which is to awaken to Genesis 1 identity while still embodied in Genesis 2 experience. Not escape the world, not deny the body, not reject humanity, but to live from remembrance instead of forgetting. That's why Jesus says the kingdom is within you. You must be born from above. That which is born of spirit is spirit. He is saying, return to the awareness of your origin while still in form. Born again is not about becoming something new. It is about remembering what was always true. Jesus never framed rebirth as moral correction, rule keeping, belief adoption. He framed it as seeing, hearing, awakening, entering the kingdom now, not later, now. That's Genesis language restored. To be born again is not to become divine, but to remember your divine origin while embodied in human experience. Genesis 3 is where religion went wrong. It is not rebellion. It is forgetfulness. We are all born into an awareness, into darkness. Not evil, not cursed, not rebellious, just unaware of origin, shaped by environment, formed by culture, religion, tradition, taught who we are before we can remember. This is darkness, not sin, ignorance of origin. That's why fear appears, shame appears, separation is felt, identity becomes externalized. Not because God left, but because awareness turned outward. That is why God asks, where are you? That is not judgment. That is an invitation to awareness. Where is your awareness? The Father never left us. The Father was never absent. Source never abandoned his life. Why? Because we are his life expressed. We are his life having a lived human experience. You cannot abandon yourself. The end of Genesis 3 was not exile. It was experience. The Father, together with his life, having a lived human experience. The Father never left us. That's why scripture says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. In him we live and move and have our being. Christ in you. The Father has always been with us from the beginning of our journey to the end, because we are his life expressed. Genesis 1-3 is the story of divine life proceeding from source, entering human experience through form, beginning in an awareness, being shaped by the world, and eventually awakening to its origin. This is why Jesus said, my Father and your Father, my God and your God. Jesus is not elevating himself above humanity. He is revealing a shared origin. If God were only his Father, that statement would make no sense. But Jesus is communicating a reality. We are not creations detached from God. We are his offspring. That's exactly what Paul later says. We are his offspring. Not metaphorically, ontologically. Life does not produce something other than itself. Life expresses life. We are not separate beings trying to reach God. We are portals through which life continues to express itself. Life expressing life. Source knowing itself through form. This is why Jesus doesn't teach escape from the world. He teaches alignment within it. And this is why awareness matters so much. Because life can only recognize itself when the channel is clear. Now, watch how wisdom literature sadly makes sense. Train up a child in the way he should go. This is not about moral enforcement. It is about shaping consciousness early before distortion hardens. A child is born into unawareness, just like all of us are born into unawareness. If consciousness is not gently aligned, culture will shape it. Fear will shape it. Religion will shape it. Ego will dominate it. Training is not control. It is orientation. Helping awareness stay connected to source. Spare the rod and spoil the child. This is one of the most abused verses in scripture. The rod is never a weapon in biblical symbolism. It represents authority, guidance, alignment. The shepherd's rod directs, protects, corrects orientation, never brutalizes the sheep. So, spare the rod is not about violence. It is about withholding guidance. A child without aligned authority will be shaped by chaos instead of clarity. This is consciousness language, not punishment language. Now, watch the pattern that appears again and again in the Bible and cannot be accidental. We read that what? Abraham awakens before Isaac is born. Mary awakens before Jesus is born. Zachariah awakens before John is born. Samson's mother awakens before Samson is born. Why? Because life can only express clearly through alignment. You cannot hear God from ego. You cannot receive life clearly from distortion. You cannot bring forth clarity from confusion. Awareness precedes expression. That's the law. Birth follows alignment, not the other way around. Scripture is teaching us something profound. Before life is expressed outwardly, it is awakened inwardly. Consciousness must be aligned before it can carry life responsibly. This is not about special people. It is about how life works. Awakening is not optional. It is the condition for clear expression. Jesus didn't awaken to be admired. He awakened to awaken others. Why? Because awakened life naturally reproduces awareness. Not through control, not through force, through recognition. Life recognizes life. Truth recognizes truth. When the Bible is read symbolically, God is no longer violent. Humanity is no longer cursed. Fear dissolves. Coherence emerges. Scripture becomes a mirror, not a threat. Everything sadly fits. Genesis, Jesus, Paul, wisdom literature, human experience. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is contradictory. Nothing is cruel. We are the Father's life expressing itself through awareness. And Scripture exists to restore that awareness so life can continue to express itself clearly. That's not heresy. That's Genesis fulfilled. When awareness returns, everything changes. This is why Paul is so insistent about renewing the mind. Because when awareness returns, when I truly see that the same way I am the Father's life expressed is the same way you are the Father's life expressed, something irreversible happens inside. Relationship changes. I can no longer relate to you as an object. I can no longer reduce you to behavior, appearance, status, or belief. Why? Because I recognize life in you. The same life in me is the same life in you. When awareness awakens, I cannot hurt you because I see myself in you. I cannot exploit you because I honor the life you carry. I cannot stay angry for long because anger dissolves in understanding. I cannot look down on you because hierarchy collapses. This is why Paul says love fulfills the law. Not because love is commanded, but because love is what awakened awareness naturally does. This is why Paul never teaches love as effort. He never says, try harder to love. He explains why love happens naturally when awareness is restored. Because once I truly see that the same life expressing through me is the same life expressing through you, love is no longer a decision. It is recognition. When Paul says love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, Love does not boast. Love is not proud. He is not describing a moral checklist. He is describing what awareness looks like in relationship. If I see life in you, the same way I see life in me, of course I am patient because I understand your process. Of course I am kind because I recognize your origin. Of course I don't envy because we share the same source. Of course I don't boast because there is no hierarchy in life. Love doesn't need to be enforced when separation dissolves. Love keeps no record of wrongs. Ego keeps score. Awareness does not. Why? Because awareness understands fear causes behavior. Ignorance produces harm. Forgetfulness distorts expression. This doesn't excuse harm, but it removes condemnation. You don't keep records against someone when you recognize they are learning the same way you once did. This is why domination becomes unthinkable. This is why Paul says love does not dominate. Love does not insist on its own way. Because domination only exists where one life imagines itself superior to another. But once I know you are the Father's life expressed just as I am, domination becomes absurd. I cannot rule what I recognize as equal life. Now, watch how Ephesians 5 becomes clear when read through awareness instead of hierarchy. Paul is not teaching power. He is teaching mutual recognition. That's why he frames everything with submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of the Lord. Submission here is not inferiority. It is alignment. When two people see life in each other, control disappears. Power struggle disappears. Love flows without coercion. When Paul says Christ loved the church and gave himself for it, he is not describing self-erasure. He is describing ego surrender. Christ is life, aware of itself. So love flows outward without fear, without grasping, without domination. That's the model. Why Paul says love fulfills the law? Because once awareness is restored, you don't steal, you don't exploit, you don't harm, you don't deceive. Not because you are restrained, but because harming another feels like harming yourself. This is why Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, because we are all the Father's life expressed. Here's something almost funny and very telling. When I truly know that I am the Father's life expressed, something shifts automatically. I don't need rules to stop me from stealing. I don't need threats to stop me from cheating. I don't need fear to keep me from exploiting or harming others. Because suddenly I realize that behavior would embarrass the Father. Not because he's watching me with a whip, but because I know who I represent. When awareness awakens, wrongdoing doesn't feel tempting. It feels out of character. Stealing feels awkward. Cheating feels beneath you. Exploiting others feels foreign. Not because you are trying to be holy, but because you've remembered your identity. Paul understood this deeply. That's why he doesn't spend Romans threatening people. He keeps restoring who they are. Because once identity is restored, behavior realigns on its own. This is why Paul says, walk worthy. Paul isn't saying behave so God will accept you. He's saying live in a way that reflects who you already are. If I know I carry the Father's life, I don't want to misrepresent him. Not out of fear, out of honor. Fear-based religion says, don't do this or God will punish you. Awareness-based living says, why would I do that when I know who I am? One produces anxiety, the other produces integrity. That's why Paul replaces law with identity. This is the gospel Paul is carrying. Not behavior modification, not moral pressure, not religious fear, but identity restored. And when identity is restored, stealing stops, cheating stops, exploitation stops, harm stops. Not because someone told you to stop, but because life knows how to live when it remembers itself. When I know I am the Father's life expressed, sin doesn't frighten me. It just doesn't fit me anymore. That's not discipline. That's awakening. And that's why Paul says, it is no longer I, but Christ living in me. Life finally acting like life. When awareness awakens, and I see the same life in you that I see in me, love no longer needs instruction. It becomes the natural state of being. That's why love is patient. That's why love is gentle. That's why love keeps no record. That's why love never dominates. Not because love is forced, but because separation is gone. Love is not something we practice. It is what naturally flows when we finally recognize each other as the Father's life expressed. Awakened awareness produces patience, gentleness, humility, compassion. Not because someone told me to be kind, but because I now see clearly. The veil has been removed. And when sight is restored, cruelty becomes irrational. This awareness also changes how we see the body. When I see someone who is deformed, disabled, impaired, limited, I do not mock. I do not diminish. I do not judge. Why? Because I understand something essential. Something may have gone wrong in embodiment, but nothing went wrong with being. Embodiment is subject to genetics, medication errors, substance exposure, environmental limitation, ignorance. These are conditions of form, not identity. And Paul understands this deeply. That's why he says, we judge no one according to the flesh. Because flesh is not essence. Form is not source. This is also why awakened awareness changes how we relate to animals, nature, the environment, the earth itself. Because once I know life is one, I stop exploiting what I recognize as family. Paul says, creation is groaning, not because it is cursed, but because it is waiting for recognition. When humanity awakens, creation rests. Once I know I am the Father's life expressed, you are the Father's life expressed, all life flows from the same source, then fear has no place to stand. Hellfire makes no sense. Eternal torture becomes impossible. Threat-based theology collapses. Because there is no universe where the Father touches his own life. That idea only survives in forgetfulness. This is also why death loses its terror. If life has no beginning, it has no end. The body is a garment. The soul is an interface. Life is eternal. So, when the body drops, life does not disappear or go somewhere to wait for judgment. No, it returns to source immediately. Paul calls this being absent from the body is to be present with the Lord immediately, not someday. Paul is saying this not as fear, but as rest. This is what Paul is restoring. Not fear-based obedience, not moral superiority, not religious control, but clear seeing. Because once awareness is restored, everything aligns naturally. Behavior, relationships, compassion, peace, not by force, by recognition. Here is the truth Paul is carrying all along. When I awaken to the fact that I and all others are the Father's life expressed, harm becomes impossible. Fear dissolves. Death loses its sting. And love becomes the only natural way to live. That is awakening. And that is why Paul does not end the book of Romans with threats. He ends it with assurance. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. Nothing can separate life from its source. Nothing. Beloved, this is all I have for you today. In summary, awaken to who you are. Remember who you are. You are not ordinary. You are not inferior. You are not less than. You are the Father's life expressed in a vessel to have a lived human experience. Rest in this truth and let it realign everything else. Have a good one, and I will see you in the next session.
Are you waking? I remember there's a fire in my spirit. There's a whisper in my soul, calling me back to the memory of the truth I used to know. I was walking in the shadows, now I rise into the light. Christ within me always waited for my heart to see what's right. No more fear, no more hiding. I'm returning to my name. I am love, I am divine. I am rising once again. I awaken to the Christ that lives in me. I accept it, I embrace it. This is who I'm born to be. I am shining, I am glowing with the power of the source. I identify with glory. I am waking up to more. I awaken. This is who I truly am. Every breath becomes alignment. Every heartbeat speaks my truth. Heaven starts inside my spirit, flowing out in something new. I am whole and I am holy. I am light that fills the dark. I am one with all creation. I am God's eternal spark. Every day I keep repeating every word that makes me free, till this truth becomes my nature, till this Christ becomes my me. I awaken to the Christ that lives in me. I accept it, I embrace it. This is who I'm born to be. I am shining, I am glowing with the power of the source. I identify with glory. I am waking up to more. I awaken. This is who I truly am. I'll keep speaking, I'll keep believing, till this truth becomes my breathing. Christ within me, Christ within me, Christ within me, awakens now.